All right, so welcome to another deep dive with us. And today we're diving into your idea for a language learning series. I gotta say, using inspirational quotes to teach English, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, it's really all about emotion and how you can make learning more impactful and memorable when you connect it with something meaningful.
Yeah. Okay, so you've called this series Daily English Quotes, and you've come up with a very specific structure.
Yeah.
So can you kind of like take us through that?
Sure. It starts with repetition. So, the quote is presented slowly at first, and that way learners can really absorb the sounds and the pronunciation.
Uh-huh.
And it helps train the ear to really pick up those nuances of English, which can be pretty tricky at times.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's kind of like immersing yourself in the rhythm.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then what?
Then we break down the meaning. Each, unfamiliar word is carefully defined, and we really illustrate it with clear examples to help provide context. Okay, so you're not just like throwing vocabulary words at people, you're helping them like understand how to use them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
And to even make it more engaging, we incorporate interactive questions like, what does this quote mean to you?
Well, I like that.
So it's not just about, the dictionary definition, but really encouraging learners to connect with a deeper message and personalize their understanding.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like a built-in moment for reflection almost.
Yes. And that leads perfectly into the next step, where learners actually get to create their own sentences using the new vocabulary.
Right.
So they're solidifying their understanding. It's not just passive learning. They're using it right away.
Right, putting it into practice.
Yes.
And you've chosen a whole collection of inspiring quotes for the series.
Right.
Can you give us a sneak peek?
Oh, for sure. We have like a diverse range of voices and themes represented. For example, we have one from Winston Churchill. It's about perseverance.
Okay.
One from Albert Einstein about finding opportunity amidst difficulty. Another one from the Dalai Lama, and it focuses on happiness.
Oh, cool.
And let's not forget Theodore Roosevelt's quote about resourcefulness.
I was going to say, what about Theodore Roosevelt?
Exactly.
So it seems like you're choosing these quotes that really resonate like with the universal human experience.
Yes, exactly. That was the goal.
Yep.
We wanted quotes that would be relatable to learners from all different backgrounds, and that could spark conversation about these shared values and experiences.
Yeah, definitely. Now, why Churchill's quote on perseverance? Why that one?
Well, besides being a powerful figure in history, his words offer a really potent metaphor for the language learning journey itself. He talks about never giving in, never yielding, and that's exactly the kind of attitude that you need to succeed in mastering a new language.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're going to have challenges, moments when you feel like giving up.
Right.
But just like Churchill, you got to like push through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by exploring this quote in depth, we can help learners understand not just the vocabulary, but also that like deeper meaning behind the words, like the resilience, the determination that you need to achieve goals.
Right. So it's not just about the words; it's about the attitude. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And by discussing these themes, learners all over the world can really connect over these shared human experiences, right? Even if their native languages are totally different.
Yeah. And then you've also to add to that, you've also added some interactive elements, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So we have polls and challenges built into each episode.
Okay.
For example, we might ask viewers, what was your favorite word today?
Oh, that's cool.
Or challenge yourself to write a motivational sentence using this new vocabulary.
Yeah, it's almost like a virtual study group, right? Where people can share their progress and motivate each other. And by making these prompts, asking them to use the language creatively, it's helping them kind of internalize it.
Exactly. We want to create a dynamic learning environment where participation is encouraged and learners feel empowered to really express themselves in English.
Right. I can see how those interactive elements could lead to some really interesting discussions. What stands out to you as particularly exciting about this whole approach?
I think it's the potential to really personalize the learning experience. Instead of relying on those one-size-fits-all methods.
Yeah.
We're tapping into individual meaning and connection.
Right.
And when a learner connects with a quote on a personal level, the words and the lessons behind them become much more powerful.
Makes sense. I mean, we all learn differently, and what resonates with one person, might not have the same impact on another. And by providing that framework, it's really giving people the tools to kind of own their language journey, I guess.
Exactly. That's the ultimate goal. And I think by weaving those personal reflections, into language learning, we can make the process not only more effective but more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm curious, with all these different elements working together, how do you envision this approach, impacting learners from different cultural backgrounds?
Well, one of the most exciting aspects is the potential for cultural exchange. By discussing these universal themes like perseverance and opportunity, learners from all over the world can share their unique perspectives and really learn from each other's experiences.
Yeah. So it's not just about learning English, it's almost like broadening your worldview.
Right, exactly. And by encouraging learners to share their own cultural interpretations of the quotes, we can create this really enriching and diverse learning environment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This is all sounding really well thought out, but I do wonder, inspirational quotes are powerful, but could focusing solely on these positive messages potentially downplay the challenges?
That's a great question. And it's something we've considered carefully. While we want to inspire learners, we also want to acknowledge the realities.
Yeah.
Language learning, it's hard work.
Right.
So how do we plan to address that? We'll be incorporating discussions about the struggles.
Okay.
That learners might face, like dealing with frustration, overcoming plateaus, and staying motivated. We might even share personal anecdotes about our own language learning journeys. Highlight the mistakes that we made.
Right.
The lessons we learned.
Right. I like that. So it's like bringing a dose of realism.
Exactly. We want learners to understand that it's okay to struggle. It's part of the journey.
Yeah.
What matters is that they keep going. Like Churchill said.
Exactly right.
Okay.
So we've got this amazing foundation, the repetition for pronunciation, clear definitions for vocabulary, the interactive questions for engagement, personal stories for context, and then we've got these interactive elements on top of it all. It's all coming together.
Yeah, it's about creating this holistic approach that addresses, all those aspects, the cognitive, the emotional, the social aspects of language.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with how much thought you've put into this. You've really considered, every angle.
Well, we believe that learning a new language should be both effective and enjoyable.
Yeah.
And we think that this approach has the potential to really create a transformative experience.
Yeah, I agree. It's a reminder that language learning, it's not just about memorizing grammar rules and vocabulary lists. It's really about connecting with ideas and exploring different perspectives and ultimately expanding our understanding of the world and even ourselves.
That's beautifully put. And that brings us to another key aspect of the series.
Yeah.
The quote selection itself. Each quote has been carefully chosen, not only for its inspirational message, but for its linguistic richness.
Okay, let's dive into that. What specific qualities did you look for?
Well, we wanted quotes that offered a wide range of vocabulary, including idioms, metaphors, expressions that learners might not encounter in everyday conversation. We also wanted quotes that use language in a really compelling way, to showcase a beauty, the power of the English language.
So it's not just about the message, it's also about exposing them to all the nuances of the language itself.
Exactly. By analyzing the language used, learners can gain a deeper appreciation for the art of communication, and develop their own ability to express themselves eloquently.
Okay. So it's like a masterclass in both language but also in life, right?
Yes.
Now, I know we've talked about a few quotes already, but I'm curious to hear more about the specific ones that you've chosen.
Well, one quote that we're particularly excited about is from Albert Einstein. And he said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And that really ties in with what we were just talking about the challenges, right?
Yes, exactly. This quote encourages, learners to see obstacles not as roadblocks, but as opportunities for growth.
Right.
It's a reminder that even when things get tough, there's always something to be learned.
And gained.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's just like a great example of how a simple quote can really get these profound conversations going. What else? What else do you have?
Another quote that we think will resonate with learners is from the Dalai Lama.
Okay.
And he said that happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions.
I like that one.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that we have like agency, right?
Yeah.
In our own lives, even when it comes to something as challenging as learning a new language.
Exactly. And this quote can be particularly motivating for learners who might be feeling overwhelmed or discouraged. It reminds them that their efforts, their actions, are what will ultimately lead to their success and fulfillment.
It's like, it's just a great example of how language can convey not just like information, but wisdom.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. By exposing learners to quotes like this, we hope to not only expand their vocabulary, but to broaden their horizons, and inspire them to think differently about the world and their place in it.
Right. Okay. So I'm sensing a pattern here. You're not just picking like any quote. You're being really strategic about the quotes that you're choosing.
That's exactly right. We want each quote to serve a dual purpose. To introduce new vocabulary and to spark deeper conversations.
Yeah.
About these universal themes that resonate with learners, from all walks of life.
You've definitely piqued my interest. I can't wait to hear about the other quotes you've chosen and the thought process behind them. But I think for now we'll take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll delve even deeper.
Sounds great.
All right, so we're back and we're continuing our deep dive into this daily English quotes series. Before the break, we were talking about the specific quotes that you've chosen and how they can teach and they can inspire.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight that these quotes aren't just meant to be passively absorbed. We want learners to actually engage with them, analyze their meaning, connect them to their own experience.
So it's almost like a springboard for like deeper conversation and reflection.
Exactly. And for instance, we have a quote from Theodore Roosevelt that says, "Do what you can with what you have, where you are."
Now that's a quote that really packs a punch, and it's so relevant to language learning, especially for those who maybe don't have access to traditional resources or like a traditional learning environment.
Yeah. It's a reminder that you don't need fancy textbooks or expensive software to learn English.
Yeah.
You can start with what you have, whether it's a library book or a free online app or even just conversations with other English speakers.
It's all about like being resourceful, making the most of your situation.
Right.
And I think that message can be really empowering, especially for, learners who might be feeling intimidated.
Absolutely. It helps shift their mindset from one of limitation to one of possibility.
Yeah.
It's about finding those creative solutions and embracing the learning journey, no matter where you are or what resources you have available.
I like how you're weaving in those practical takeaways alongside the inspirational messages.
Yeah.
It's a nice balance.
We believe that language learning should be both inspiring and practical. And by connecting these quotes to real world situations, we hope to show learners that English isn't just some like abstract subject. It's a tool that they can use to achieve their goals and to connect with the world around them.
So we've talked a lot about the benefits, but I'm also curious, to hear your thoughts on maybe some of the challenges. Is there anything about this method that you think maybe wouldn't work as well for certain learners, certain learning styles?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And while we believe this approach can be beneficial for a wide range of learners, it's important to acknowledge that it might not be the perfect fit for everyone.
Right.
For example, learners who prefer a more structured grammar-focused approach might not find this method as engaging.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. And that's why we emphasize the importance of personalizing, the learning experience. Learners should feel free to adapt this method to suit their own needs and preferences. They could, for instance, supplement the daily English quotes with, more traditional grammar exercises or vocabulary drills.
Yeah.
If they feel that would be helpful.
Right. So find what works for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And speaking of like individual learners, I'm curious, like how you envision this approach, like impacting learners from different cultural backgrounds. Could there be any like challenges or benefits specific to certain cultures?
That's a fascinating question. One potential challenge is that some cultures might place less emphasis on individual expression and critical thinking, which are key elements of this approach. And so in those cases, it might be helpful to provide additional guidance or support to encourage learners to share their own interpretations and perspectives.
So cultural sensitivity is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to create an inclusive learning environment where everyone feels comfortable and respected, and we believe that by bringing together learners from different cultures, we can create this really enriching and diverse learning experience. Imagine the kind of insights that could emerge from discussing a quote about perseverance with learners from Japan and Brazil.
Yeah. Like their cultural perspectives would add so much.
Yes, exactly.
It's like opening a whole new world.
It is.
Through language.
Yeah, and by fostering this kind of cross-cultural dialogue, we can not only help learners improve their English skills, but also promote empathy. Understanding, appreciation for different ways of seeing the world.
That's what's so powerful about language. It's not just a tool for communication. It's really like a bridge.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And that's why we're so passionate about this project.
Yeah.
We believe that by combining the power of inspirational quotes with this personalized interactive learning approach, we can create truly a transformative experience for learners from all walks of life.
I have a feeling you're onto something pretty special here. Now, earlier we touched on those interactive elements like the polls and the challenges. Can you give us a few more specific examples of how those might work, like within an episode?
Of course.
Yeah.
For instance, after analyzing a quote about happiness, we might ask viewers to vote in a poll about what brings them joy.
Okay.
Their own lives. This encourages them to not only think about the quote's meaning, but to connect it to their own personal experiences.
So you're weaving in those opportunities for like reflection, self-discovery.
Exactly. And then as a challenge, we might ask viewers to share a quote that has inspired them on their language learning journey.
Right.
This not only encourages them to use the language actively, but also exposes everyone to a wider range of inspirational messages.
Yeah.
And perspectives.
It's like creating like this virtual community almost of learners.
Right.
Who can support each other, motivate each other. And I love how you're incorporating a little bit of friendly competition with those challenges. That can be really fun.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that learning English is not just effective but enjoyable.
Right. Well, I think you've achieved that with this concept. It's clear that you've thought about every detail from the quote selection to the interactive elements, the potential challenges. I mean, you've really thought about it all.
And we're really excited to see how this series unfolds and the impact it has on learners around the world.
I have a feeling it's going to be pretty remarkable. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about personalizing the learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more? Like,
Sure.
What specific advice would you give to learners who are maybe using this daily English quotes series?
Yeah, that's a great question. First and foremost, I would encourage learners to really take ownership of their learning journey.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just passively listen to the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Actively engage with the quotes, ask questions, connect them to your own life.
Be an active participant, not just a passive observer.
Exactly. Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Right. Yeah.
Try different methods of studying the quotes, such as, writing them down, recording yourself reading them aloud, or even creating visual representations of their meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Find what works for you and your learning style.
Right.
And speaking of learning styles, are there any specific tips you'd give to learners who identify as visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learners?
Absolutely. For visual learners, I would suggest, creating flashcards.
Okay.
With the quotes on one side and the definitions or translations on the other. They could also draw pictures or diagrams, to help visualize the meaning. Auditory learners, might benefit from listening to the episodes, multiple times or recording themselves reading the quotes aloud. And for kinesthetic learners, I would recommend writing the quotes out by hand or even acting them out physically.
Right.
To help internalize the language and the message.
That's such practical advice, and it really emphasizes the point that there's no one right way to learn.
Yeah.
It's all about finding what works for you.
Yeah. And remember, language learning is a journey, not a destination. There will be bumps along the way.
Yeah.
But don't let them, discourage you. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep connecting with the power of language.
Those are words to live by. Now, before we move on to our final thoughts, I wanted to touch on something that's been on my mind. We've talked about how inspirational quotes can be, but I'm wondering, isn't there a potential downside to focusing solely on those positive messages? Could it create this false sense of ease?
That's a really insightful point.
Yeah.
And it's true that language learning can be challenging.
Yeah.
Even frustrating at times.
Right.
And so it's important to acknowledge those difficulties and to help learners develop coping mechanisms for dealing with setbacks and plateaus.
So how do you plan to incorporate that element of realism into the Daily English Quotes series?
We're planning to dedicate specific episodes to addressing the challenges of language learning. We might talk about common mistakes that learners make.
Yeah.
Share personal anecdotes about our own struggles and provide tips for staying motivated.
All right.
When things get tough.
So it's all about finding that balance between the inspiration and the realism.
Exactly. We want learners to feel inspired. We want them to feel empowered, but we also want to prepare them for the realities.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's a perfect segue to our final thoughts. What is one key takeaway that you would like to leave our listeners with today?
I would say this. Learning a new language is an incredible adventure, full of challenges and rewards.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Find what works best for you.
Yeah.
And never stop exploring the beauty and the power of language. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. Connect with other learners, share your experiences, support each other along the way.
That's beautiful advice. And I think it speaks to the heart of what you're trying to achieve. It's not just about teaching English. It's about fostering that love of language.
Yes.
Right. And a sense of community.
Yeah.
Among learners.
Absolutely.
And it makes you think, what quote would you choose to inspire English learners?
Yeah. That's a great question.
I'd have to give it some thought, but I love the idea of leaving our listeners with that prompt to really reflect on the quotes that resonate with them and why they think those messages would be, impactful for other learners.
Yeah, it's a wonderful way to continue the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Beyond this deep dive.
Yeah, to spark a sense of curiosity. Absolutely.
Now I know we've covered a lot of ground today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
Just this, we believe that language has the power to connect us, to inspire us, and to transform us, and we hope that this Daily English Quotes series will be a catalyst for positive change, in the lives of learners around the world.
That's a powerful message, and I think it beautifully encapsulates the essence of what we've been discussing. Now I think it's time for another quick break, and then we'll come back with our final thoughts. We're back, and we're ready to wrap up our deep dive into this daily English quotes series.
As we've been talking, I've been reflecting on my own experiences, learning languages. And I think what often gets overlooked is the emotional side of it all.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Language learning isn't just, a cognitive process. It's really deeply intertwined with our emotions.
Think about the excitement of understanding a new phrase, or the frustration of hitting a roadblock, the joy of, finally being able to express yourself fluently.
It's like a roller coaster.
It is.
And that's where I think, the inspirational aspect of your series really shines. It's not just about vocabulary and grammar. It's about providing that emotional boost, that encouragement, that motivation.
Right. And when learners connect with a quote on a personal level, it can provide that sense of hope, of resilience, even a renewed sense of purpose.
Yeah.
In their language journey.
It's almost like having a personal cheerleader, in your pocket, kind of whispering words of encouragement whenever you need them.
I love that analogy.
Now, before we get to our final takeaway for you, I wanted to ask, have you given any thought to how this series could be, adapted or expanded in the future?
Yeah, for sure. We've brainstormed a few ideas. For example, we could create themed episodes, focusing on specific topics like, travel or business or even pop culture. We could also, partner with guest speakers from different countries to share their perspectives on the quotes.
Yeah.
And their own language learning experiences.
Yeah. I love those ideas. I think it's all about keeping the content fresh. Right.
Yes.
And engaging and finding those new ways to connect with learners. And you know what? I was thinking this format could be applied to other subjects, not just, language.
Right. Imagine a daily math quotes series. Using inspirational quotes from mathematicians, or a daily history quotes series. With quotes from historical figures.
Yeah, it's really about tapping into that power of language.
Yes.
Right, to connect with people.
Yeah, and that's what excites us most about this project. It's not just about teaching a language. It's about sparking that curiosity.
Yeah. Fostering
a love of learning.
Yeah.
And ultimately, empowering individuals to reach their full potential.
That's beautifully said. To bring this deep dive to a close, if you could leave our listeners with just one key piece of advice to guide them as they kind of develop this concept, what would it be?
I would say always keep the learner at the heart of everything you do. Design each episode with their needs, their interests, and their aspirations in mind, and never underestimate the power of a well-chosen quote to inspire, to motivate, to transform.
That's a really powerful reminder, and I think it really speaks to the core of what makes this series so special. It's more than just a language learning tool. It's a celebration of the human spirit, and a testament to the power of words to connect us and to uplift us.
Beautifully put.
As you embark on this journey, creating and sharing this series with the world, remember to stay curious, stay passionate, and never lose sight of that joy of learning.
Absolutely.
That's a wonderful note to end on. So there you have it, a deep dive into a truly innovative and inspiring approach to language learning. We've explored the structure, the strategy, the impact, and the heart behind this daily English quotes series. We've discussed the power of inspirational quotes to motivate and to connect learners, the importance of personalization and interactive elements, and of course the need to balance, inspiration with realism. And we've left you with a challenge to discover the quotes that resonate with you and to share the magic of language with the world. Keep those quotes coming and happy learning.